Please describe your job title and primary duties.
So when I was working at GameStop, I started as a seasonal employee. Over the course of about a year, I worked my way all the way up to an assistant store manager. The job duties vary based on your position. When you're an entry-level employee, your main jobs are going to be stocking the floor, you're going to be making sure everything is clean, and you will be doing minor guest transactions. For the most part, though, they do save most of the selling for your higher-level associates.
What was the work environment like?
Honestly, it has been my favorite job that I've ever had. I loved it. It was something that was very laid back. When I went there, it didn't feel like I was going to work. It felt like I was going to hang out with a couple of friends, which is awesome. I mean, I do want to very heavily stress this is a sales job. It's not just sitting there talking about video games all day. I wish it was, because that would be really cool too. But, you know, there are sales goals that you're trying to meet out there, and you do have to put in some effort, but you get out so much more than you put in.
What was your favorite part about working there?
Genuinely speaking, it helped me break out of my kind of inner shell. So I started as a very introverted, very shy person. And through working there, I mean, getting to interact with the guests, getting to see that smile on their face when they finally get what they wanted, and really delivering them the best deal. I think my absolute all-time favorite memory was I had a guest come in. He had not been in GameStop in over 2 years. He came in, and I started the transaction in the worst way possible. I made a joke about his name, because his name was John Tallman, and he was a very tall man. And I said something, and I could tell that it rubbed him the wrong way a little bit. But then when he came up to ring out the transaction, I started talking to him. I actually ended up getting him a really good deal. I signed him on for our pro membership, got him quite a few different games and a few different extra benefits. And I remember going home that day and checking the Google reviews, and there it was. He wrote on there that he had the best experience he has ever had at GameStop, and it was directly related to me.
Please describe the application and interview process.
That would be kind of the downside of GameStop. Was I was very fortunate in the sense that when I applied, I heard back within about 2 weeks. On average, it takes a month, sometimes even 2 months before you even hear back for an interview, for your first interview. After that, the process moves incredibly quickly. I went from, like I said, I applied, I got my interview call about 2 weeks later, and then I started 2 days after that. So it was very, very quick. But for most of the people who were working in my store, they applied a month in advance and then started normally on average about a week, week and a half afterwards.
What questions did the interviewer ask during the job interview?
One of the big questions, and this is the easy and the gimme question of it all, is they ask what systems, what games are you familiar with? That is, from a company perspective, they're using that to gauge what you know and also what you're comfortable with. So if you're someone who is playing on mostly like last generation stuff, they kind of want you to know more of the new stuff. It's nice to have that information in your back pocket because you still do get guests coming in for that stuff, but they really want to make sure that you have what they need. Each store is looking for something a little bit different. So for instance, when I started, they were looking for someone who could get reserves on new games. So they wanted someone who had that knowledge of what's coming out, what to expect. Whereas in other stores, they might just be looking for someone who can sell some of that older product, so you might actually benefit from having that. Ultimately, though, the biggest questions, and these are the ones where they kind of weed out everyone, is when they talk about sales. Like I said, it is a sales job. I knew only a little bit about video games actually before starting there. I was not a gamer, but I came in and I was able to sell. And having that innate sales experience is really what gets you that job. You don't need any past experience, but they want to know that you have the sales personality and the drive for it.
How were you notified that you received the job?
Like I said, for me, it was like 2 or 3 days. They actually told me the day of my interview that no matter what, I had a position. It was just a matter of, was I going to be seasonal or was I going to be starting as a full year associate? And I got a phone call from the store manager himself saying, yeah, this is what we want to do. When are you available to start? And I was, like I said, in within 3-4 days.
What set you apart from other candidates?
The biggest thing that set me apart when I went in there, and they actually told me this straight up when I started on my first day, was that when I went in there, they were very, very clear that they knew that I was not very familiar with the video gaming aspect of everything. But a big thing that was going on in that store was they knew that the assistant store manager was leaving. And I came in there with having some idea of managerial skills because I had that in a past job. But on top of all of that, when in the interview, they gauge your body language and your personality more than anything. They are looking for a specific personality, a specific fit for the store. And they said that I just had a personality that livened up the room. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who can take any stranger on the street and have a good conversation with them. And I remember the store manager specifically saying he felt like he was talking to an old friend instead of someone who just applied.
What other advice would you give to a job seeker looking to gain employment?
Ultimately, GameStop was probably my favorite job that I've ever had. It's fantastic. It's really good if you're just looking for something that you can go in, relax, and have a good time doing it. My biggest advice, though, is don't go into this job thinking that you are going to be sitting there talking about video games all day. We had a few different people who came in with that being their assumption, and it just didn't mesh very well because you may know a lot about your subject, but if you really can't relate to someone or have a good conversation with someone, it makes it very, very hard to actually sell. GameStop is a sales job much more than it is an actual video game job. So definitely make sure that you have at least some comfort level with talking to people. They will definitely train you, but performance there is huge. You're tracked on so many different metrics. So you got to make sure that you can actually sell.